I knew from when I was real small that people were going to know who I was. I always had that feeling, but I just never knew how they were going to learn. I kind of enjoy it because now, even after I die, people are going to remember me forever. They're going to talk about me for years. People in West Memphis will tell their kids stories. It'll be like, sort of like I'm the West Memphis boogeyman. Little kids will be looking under their bed before they go to bed. Damien might be under there.
In this video, I'm going to cover the West Memphis 3 case. Even though it's considered solved, I think of it as the original story that kicked off modern true crime drama. The murders of 3 little boys happened in 1993, but it was the HBO documentary Paradise Lost, released in 1996, that put this case in front of the world. And that was the first true crime documentary I ever watched, and some of the opening scenes still bother me to this day. And back then, I was left with more questions than answers. Over the past few months, I decided to go back to take a deep dive into the case files, court records, autopsy reports, podcasts, books, and I wanted to hear all opinions on this case. Now, I know some things can never be completely answered, but this is my attempt at getting to the truth as closely as possible. I've had a lot of people ask me to cover this case, mainly because they wanted to hear my take on it. The facts are available, the files are out there, and plenty of opinions already exist. What I could bring is an analysis based on the evidence, and then share my newly educated opinion. That's what this video is about, my breakdown of the case and where the evidence leads. I hope you enjoy it. On May 5th, 1993, 3 8-year-old boys, Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Christopher Byers, went missing in West Memphis, Arkansas. When the boys failed to return home that evening, parents called police, and search parties swept through the woods of Robin Hood Hills with flashlights late into the night. The next day, May 6th, their bodies were discovered in a muddy drainage ditch. The scene was shocking. All 3 boys were naked and bound in an unusual manner, left wrist to left ankle, right wrist to right ankle, with shoelaces, forcing their bodies into a bent, contorted, almost sexual position. It was odd. The knots themselves varied. Some were crude and rushed, others seemed a little more carefully tied, which indicated there was probably more than one person responsible. Stevie and Michael suffered severe beatings and ultimately drowned once thrown in the drainage ditch. Christopher was castrated and bled to death from the injuries before his body was discarded in the water. This horrific case gained national attention, and by 1994, prosecutors argued the murders were tied to a satanic ritual. Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jessie Misskelley were convicted in 2 separate trials. Jessie Misskelley had his own trial, and Damien and Jason were tried together. All 3 were convicted. Echols was sentenced to death, Baldwin to life without parole, and Jessie Misskelley to life plus 40 years. In 1996, public perception of the case shifted dramatically. HBO released Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. The film suggested Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jessie Misskelley were convicted not because of the evidence, but because they were outcasts who dressed in black, listened to heavy metal music, and didn't fit into small town expectations. I watched this documentary, and I recommend it if you're interested in this case. But as you watch it, ask what they aren't showing you and if you're getting the whole story. Eventually, after the success of the documentary, high-profile entertainers bought into the story and actually became vocal advocates of the 3 teenagers that were convicted of murder. It seems like they put themselves in these boys' shoes, thinking, what if I was thrown in prison for life just for how I dressed or the music I listened to? Some of the celebrities that supported the 3 were Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, Marilyn Manson, Winona Ryder, and the famous director of Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, and his wife. They actually funded millions of dollars for the investigative work and legal appeals. And even Metallica, who had never before allowed their music to be licensed for film, actually permitted HBO to use tracks such as Welcome Home and Orion, cementing a strong link between the case and heavy metal culture. But the reality is more complicated after looking into the case and all the case files. Clearly shows police reports and witness statements are what drove the investigation. It wasn't fashion or music taste, but still, the case has always carried challenges. The physical evidence was limited. This was an outdoor crime. and DNA was barely a thing back then. And so questions remain about the degree of certainty in the convictions. I myself am not 100% sure, but we'll see as this video goes along if I change one way or the other. Now, another interesting twist in this case was the West Memphis 3 were actually released from prison in 2011. They didn't serve their life sentences or death penalty. In 2011, after years of mounting celebrity pressure and millions raised for legal defense, the West Memphis 3 were freed through an Alford plea. This type of plea is legally a guilty plea, but it allows defendants to maintain innocence while acknowledging that prosecutors had enough evidence to convict them. It was a compromise, it wasn't an exoneration. But this plea deal let them walk out of prison immediately, avoiding the risk of retrials or lengthy appeals, while the state kept a conviction on record. And no matter who you believe the killer or killers are, the reality is the same. It is horrific to think about that any human being, especially children, had experienced such brutality. The crime scene was in a wooded area known as Robin Hood Hills, a patch of land near Interstate 40, bordered by a truck wash and a residential neighborhood. The bodies were found on May 6, 1993, submerged in a shallow drainage ditch. Their clothes were recovered nearby, shoved into the mud with some items twisted around sticks as if it was deliberately anchored to conceal the evidence. And the crime scene carried a strange contradiction. The murders were brutal, there's no doubt about that, yet there were few visible signs that such violence had taken place, which quickly fueled theories of sacrificial bloodletting, of course. But once the initial shock wore off, investigators began to notice how unnaturally clean the area appeared, which only deepened the mystery of the crime. Officer John Moore stated, "I saw blood in the water, but none on the bank." Other searchers reported that reeds and grass were bent over, their tops pressed into the mud, and patches of ground looked swept through and smooth. One described it as if somebody really did clean the entire area, maybe with their feet. Officer Mike Allen testified, "I noticed one area was cleared of leaves while the rest was covered with leaves and sticks. The cleared area was slick but had scuffs. The bank showed scuffed bare patches where leaf litter had been displaced and vegetation pressed flat. The bent grasses with their heads stuck in the mud fit the exact motion of sweeping with the soles of shoes or with the branch to smear blood into the creek, to wipe blood off, push away leaves, and cover footprints." Interestingly, later, a recorded confession with one of the teenagers who were eventually convicted explained how the killers had deliberately tried to erase their tracks. Quote, "I wiped my footprints with a stick, like a zigzag, covering up my footprints and everything, and the blood. They wiped them, like in the water, make sure all the blood was off the water, make sure the blood was off the leaves and stuff. He even said that water was splashed on the banks to wash them clean." A week later, back at the crime scene on May 12th and 13th, investigators returned with luminol, a chemical that glows blue when it reacts with blood. Despite several days of rainfall, the application, quote, "lit up like a Christmas tree," unquote, especially along the banks, in shallow water, and on the paths where the boys had been placed. Another reason there was little blood at the crime scene was that a lot of it remained internal. Massive hemorrhaging beneath the scalp and deep tissue kept it from pooling on the ground. Let's look at why investigators thought the crime scene appeared ritualistic and try to see their perspective. Okay, so 3 boys of the same age, all bound in the same way, which was very unusual, left wrist to left ankle, right wrist to right ankle, in a manner that seemed sexual. There were sticks that were found near them that had been carved. The bodies were left in a secluded patch of the woods on a full moon, and one victim was even mutilated. And this was 1993, right in the middle of the nationwide Satanic-Panic that was rolling across the country. This is when police were being trained to identify so-called signs of ritual crime. In West Memphis, there were already rumors of devil worship, animal sacrifice, and occult gatherings. So viewed through that lens, the bindings, the nudity, the mutilation, the disposal of the bodies, I could see why they thought it might have been occult killing. So fine, fair enough, but it still wasn't. We're going to go through the autopsies now. Christopher Byers. Christopher died from massive blood loss due to severe injuries to his genitals. He was tortured and castrated. These wounds showed heavy bleeding into the surrounding tissue, proving it was inflicted while he was still alive. In addition, gouge-type cuts around the genital area indicated repeated stabbing or cutting motions. Christopher had multiple lacerations and bruises to his face and scalp. The base of his skull was fractured like an eggshell from the force of being struck. likely with a bat-sized branch causing internal bleeding. Christopher's body had numerous bruises and abrasions, including to his arms, legs, and back. His forearms showed defensive-type wounds, consistent with trying to block or grab a weapon. Along with genital mutilation, Christopher's anal area was dilated and showed superficial abrasions and bruises. Some could have occurred naturally after death, but others suggested possible sexual assault. Bruising on his ears and lips suggested someone may have gripped his head and forced oral contact. Christopher's right wrist was tied to his right ankle with a black shoelace, and his left wrist to his left ankle with a white shoelace. The bindings left deep marks, showing they were applied when he was still alive. But not much longer after the bindings, he bled to death and was thrown in the drainage ditch and stomped into the mud to conceal his body. Stevie Branch. Stevie died from blunt force trauma combined with drowning. He inhaled water, proven by muddy water and frothy fluids in his lungs, meaning he was alive when placed in the ditch. Stevie sustained devastating injuries to his head and face. His cheek and jaw were torn open with gouging wounds consistent with a knife. The wound to his face caused blood to spurt out of the wound. His skull was fractured at the base, and there was bleeding inside of his brain, confirming he was struck while still alive. His facial wounds were jagged and patterned, consistent with multiple sharp blows while moving. He had widespread scrapes, cuts, and bruises on his torso, arms, and legs. His arms and hands showed smaller defensive-type injuries from trying to block blows. Stevie's genitals were also wounded. The injuries reflected that a tight band or object was wrapped around and squeezed his private area in an extremely violent manner. There were also fine scratches across his privates, consistent with forceful manipulation or possibly forced oral contact. Bruises behind his ears and on his lips supported this, and those can occur when a child's head is gripped forcefully during a sexual assault. His anal area showed mild redness but no tearing. Stevie's wrists and ankles were tied with shoelaces. One shoelace was black, the other white. The bruising beneath the ligature marks indicated the bindings were applied while he was still alive. Like Christopher, his bindings were wrist to ankle on each side. Michael Moore. Michael died from a combination of blunt force injuries and drowning. Water and debris were found in his lungs, proving he was alive when submerged. He suffered multiple skull fractures and internal bleeding in the brain from heavy blunt force blows. His face and scalp had large bruises and abrasions. These injuries incapacitated him quickly, explaining why he had few defensive wounds compared to the others. Michael's body had abrasions and bruises on his torso, arms, and legs. His hands show signs of being dragged a bit, but unlike Christopher and Stevie, Michael did not have puncture wounds from a knife like the other two boys. He also didn't have any mutilation or injury to his privates. And the reason why gets explained by one of the convicted killers, Jessie Misskelley. In a confession, he states that he was the one who beat Michael Moore with his fist and sticks, but when Jason Baldwin came over to cut Michael's genitals, like he did Chris Byers, Jessie told him no and wouldn't let him. The evidence shows this was correct. Michael's anal area showed dilation, which can happen after death, but no injuries proving penetration. Michael's right wrist was tied to his right ankle and his left wrist to his left ankle, with two different colored shoelaces. One was white and the other black. The black shoelace was much longer than all the other shoelaces that were tied around the boys. It is probable that this adult shoelace belonged to one of the offenders, and one of the convicted killers had some new shoelaces in their boots not too long after the murders. Like the others, the style of binding was unusual, not the classic hog tie, but wrist to ankle on each side. Each of the boys suffered blunt force trauma to the head. They also had cuts, bruises, and abrasions consistent with a violent beating. Two of them, Michael Moore and Stevie Branch, died from drowning after being beaten so bad they could barely move, while Christopher died from bleeding out. Forensic analysis found that 3 different types of knots were used across the victims, suggesting at least more than one person tied them up. Michael's bindings left fewer marks, consistent with him being unconscious or already incapacitated when tied. And Michael Moore was found about 30 feet away from the other victims. This is a boy that Jessie Misskelley said he chased down and beat, and the crime scene perfectly aligned with that information, which was not made public. So what about the time of death? Well, that is virtually impossible to determine in murder cases. It's not an exact science. What we do know is there were no mosquito bites on the children, and you would have to be alive to show evidence of mosquito bites. So the boys were not alive or outside of the water when mosquitoes came out. So we can infer that the boys were likely already dead or submerged by the time dusk activity began, which was from 7:30 to 8 p.m. So that's when they were killed, somewhere in there. The animal predation myth. In 2007-2008, defense experts Dr. Werner Spitz and Dr. Michael Baden began claiming that animal predation, not knives, caused many of the boys' wounds. They argued the injuries came from animal bites. But this theory was never backed by real science because animal bite analysis isn't a reliable forensic method. You can't look at a wound and prove that an animal made it. But what science can show is whether an injury happened before or after death. And in this case, the evidence is clear. The worst wounds on the boys occurred while they were alive. The tissue showed hemorrhaging, active bleeding. Dead bodies don't bleed. So that proves these injuries were inflicted before death, not by scavenging animals after. The drainage ditch itself where the boys were found was extremely shallow, just a couple of feet. It was a seasonal runoff channel, not a flowing stream with a thriving aquatic ecosystem. When it was drained during the investigation, no snapping turtles were found. The claim that turtles mutilated their bodies has no basis in the evidence. At most, small scavenging animals may have nibbled at exposed tissue after death. This is common in outdoor homicides. But the catastrophic damage, the head trauma, the castration, the stab wounds, that happened when the kids were still alive. No wild dogs or snapping turtles killed or injured these boys. To put this matter to rest, on May 30th, 2008, Kermit B. Chanel, executive director of Arkansas State Crime Laboratory, sent a letter to prosecuting attorney Brent Davis, making the state's position crystal clear. He explained that the state's medical team, including the chief examiner and a forensic dentist, personally examined the boys. They ruled out human bite marks, and later review confirmed it. Tissue samples from the wounds showed bleeding, proving the injuries happened while the boys were alive, not from animals after death. The wounds also had sharp, clean edges consistent with knives, not the tearing you'd see from bites. Finally, the current chief medical examiner reviewed the findings and agreed the boys' injuries were caused by sharp instruments, not animal predation. So let's move on. Okay, so now that we have a picture of the crime scene, how it was weird and cleaned up, the next question is, who were the 3 teenagers eventually convicted of this crime? And did they actually do it? Over time, these 3 teenagers became known collectively as the West Memphis 3. So who were the West Memphis 3? And what was their behavior like before the murders? What type of people were they? Well, they sure weren't choir boys, I'll tell you that much. Damien Wayne Echols was 18 years old at the time of the murders. Born Michael Wayne Hutcheson, he later changed his name to Damien, which Damien claims that he chose this name because of a Catholic priest who worked with lepers. And that is about the biggest crock that I've ever heard. If you believe that, you could unsubscribe now. So, despite his ridiculous claim, it's obvious that he chose the name Damien based on the Antichrist character in The Omen, or the main character in The Exorcist, which he did have that book. It was found during the search. So, by 1993, he was living with his mother and stepfather in a lakeshore trailer park home in West Memphis. He was a high school dropout with no steady job. Damien spent most of his time drifting between friends and girlfriends' houses, reading about the occult, and trying to cultivate a dark, mysterious image. Before the murders, Damien Echols already had a long record of disturbing behavior that had counselors, probation officers, and even his own family worried about their safety and his. I mean, his history was filled with violence, threats, killing small animals, setting fires, and a fascination with evil and death. In Damien's own words, he was homicidal. He was very cruel to animals. It was well documented. On October 27th, 1992, the cousin of Damien's best friend, Jason Baldwin, and Jason Baldwin's girlfriend both stated that Damien killed a black Great Dane at Lakeshore Trailer Park. In this account, they described Damien hitting the dog in the head, pulling out its intestines, and stomping on it until its eyes popped out. At least that's what he was trying to do. He even planned to return with battery acid to strip the flesh from the skull. Later, Damien was found with the skull of a dog in his room. The same witness said Damien collected trophies, 2 cat skulls, a dog skull, and a rat skull, which he kept in his bedroom as decorations. Another person told investigators Damien liked to put sharpened sticks through frogs just to see how long it takes them to die. Another described Damien setting a cat on fire by soaking it in gasoline and igniting it with a firecracker. Reminds me of Stephen Avery stuff. And not all these stories contain just animal attacks. Before Damien was arrested for the murders, 2 teenagers, Garrett and Murray, told police that Damien once put a young boy in a noose until the child turned blue and nearly passed out. which hints at an interest with tying up younger boys and doing harm to them. He was in and out of mental health facilities. One report from the hospital stated that he had threatened to eat his father alive with a spoon, and he was placed there after his parents called the police, concerned he might harm himself or others. And Damien also told his mother that he was going to cut her throat. Court records show he violated probation after threatening to kill both his mother and father. He admitted that he would shoot his girlfriend's father if provoked, and one intake report noted simply, Damien once chased a younger child with an axe. He set small fires with his friend Jason Baldwin, and he even set a fire in a classroom once. In one evaluation, Damien described he sharpened his fingernails over time so that he could gouge out another student's eyes during a fight. While in juvenile detention, he would manipulate other people. He manipulated one boy into hurting himself, then smeared the blood on his face while calling himself a devil-worshipping vampire. A juvenile hospital file noted that he and his girlfriend once talked about having a baby and then sacrificing the child. Damien told counselors he was a vampire who worships the devil. But now, let's stop for a second. In my opinion, Damien had a habit of provoking people. He enjoyed making shocking statements, and he just loved to get a reaction. I think he was trolling people because he definitely thrived on saying things others didn't want to hear. Damien claimed that drinking blood made him feel like a god.
I wouldn't say I drank blood. A lick.
He said he expected to be remembered like Manson or Bundy one day, the famed serial killers. His writings and artwork were filled with satanic imagery and blood rituals. Enter Jerry Driver. Driver was a juvenile probation officer in the county. He supervised Damien Echols in the months before the murders. He was well aware of Damien's background, the psychiatric hospital stays, the threats, the animal killings, and the obsession with dark rituals. To Driver, Damien was the exact type of person capable of committing a brutal crime. Also, on a side note, I think Damien trolled Jerry Driver a lot too. He seemed a little bit gullible, but that's just me. Now, when the three boys were killed on May 5th, 1993, Driver immediately told investigators to look at Damien. He described him as capable and cult-oriented. Police were already hearing rumors in West Memphis about devil worship and ritual sacrifice. Damien's violent history and psychological profile made him a person of interest.
Stop it, I guess. Yes.
Would you stop being his friend?
I wouldn't be his enemy, but after this, we probably wouldn't be around or that.
You heard what was said about him. Do you think you could have done it?
About what they said?
Yeah, do you think you could have? Do you think Damien could have killed those little boys?
They made it seem like he did.
So, who was Jason Baldwin? Damien was the ringleader and Jason Baldwin was his blood brother. He was a loyal follower. Jason was 16 years old at the time of the murders. He lived with his mother and brothers in West Memphis. To many who knew him casually, Jason seemed like a quiet teenager with a ridiculous mullet, a Metallica t-shirt, and a knack for sketching. He had no serious criminal record, just some breaking and entering and some shoplifting. On the surface, he appeared more interested in music and skateboarding than getting into trouble. But those who spent more time around Jason described a darker side. Teachers and classmates recalled his notebooks filled with violent drawings, images of decapitations, torture, and ritualistic scenes. His fascination with horror, domination, and death was strong enough that several educators later testified that they found his artwork disturbing. Jason's loyalty to Damien Echols stood out to nearly everyone who observed them together. Jason's ex-girlfriend Heather said Jason was mesmerized by Damien, someone who never questioned Damien's violent or bizarre statements, but instead just laughed along, followed his lead. Other peers would say Jason would follow Damien anywhere and seemed to worship him. Neighbors and local residents also tied Jason to Damien's habits of setting small fires in abandoned spots around Robin Hood Hills. One woman reported catching the pair attempting to burn animal bones. Jason was also remembered for his unsettling comments. One classmate recalled him saying, "Kids are easy to kill if you sneak up behind them." Others said Jason liked to show off knives. He talked casually about Satanism and would always laugh at morbid jokes, which I think we all do sometimes. But by the spring of 1993, Jason Baldwin was Damien's shadow, loyal, immersed in violent imagery, and unsettling in his own right. All right, who was Jessie Misskelley Jr.? He was a third member of the West Memphis 3 group. Jesse Lloyd Misskelley Jr. was 17 years old and lived with his father and father's girlfriend, Lee Rush, at Highland Trailer Park in Marion, Arkansas. He dropped out of school, worked odd jobs, and was known locally for fights and violent behavior, especially towards children. When Jesse was only 11, he stabbed a 4th grade classmate in the mouth with a pencil. Around the same time, Jesse chased a girl who was only 5 or 6 years old and threw a rock that hit her in the head. Instead of helping her up, Jesse laughed as she cried. This was according to one of his best friends, Dennis Carter. When Jesse was 16 in January 1992, John Earl Persky, who was 14, reported that Jesse shoved him near the tracks, pulled a knife to his throat, and threatened him, then hit him, making him cough up blood. About a year later, when Jesse was 17 in 1993, Tiffany Allen, who was only 13, said Jesse had spread rumors about her and later confronted him in March of 1993. The 13-year-old Tiffany slapped him. Jesse then hit her, knocked her down, and attacked her boyfriend, Carl. Tiffany ended up with a busted lip and filed a formal complaint on March 12, 1993, less than 2 months before the murders of Chris, Stevie, and Michael. Jesse often drank, smoked marijuana, sniffed gas, and abused stimulants like many things. He picked up odd jobs in construction and other manual work, but never held anything steady. Psychological testing placed him in the low end of average intelligence. Some scores put his IQ around 72 and others in the low 80s. The three weren't together every day, but hung out occasionally, especially at Lakeshore Trailer Park, and they were known to be walking around the neighborhood together. They would also frequent the local skating rink, where local teens and small children gathered. Jesse later stated that Damien would hunt for children here. Now, to better understand the case and all of the elements going into it, let's go through a timeline. I'm not going to capture everything, but the most important key points I want to discuss. Now, to really understand how this case took shape, we need to look at some of the key dates, the moments that raised red flags, at least to me, because once I started laying this thing out, it really started to make sense what happened in the West Memphis 3 story. May 5th, between 5:30 and 6 p.m., 3 8-year-old boys, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, went missing. They were last seen riding their bicycles near Robin Hood Hills, a patch of woods on the edge of their West Memphis neighborhood. As the evening wore on, the boys didn't come home, so parents and neighbors began searching. That was the day that the boys were killed. On May 6th, the 3 boys' bodies were discovered at about 1:45 p.m. On May 6, 1993, a young man named Buddy Lucas, who was good friends with Jesse, apparently woke up the morning after the murders with a knock at the door. It was Jessie Misskelley, who was visibly upset and said he needed to talk to Buddy. Buddy described Jesse as acting weird, sweating, anxious, and visibly shaken. Jesse eventually handed over Buddy a pair of white Adidas tennis shoes and said, "Take those shoes. I don't want to see them anymore." Jesse then broke down crying and admitted, "I hurt them boys real bad." Jesse and Lucas will both confirm the exchange of the Adidas shoe story independently of each other. And police didn't actually get the correct shoes in their possession until October of 1993, after a search warrant was issued on Buddy's house, and he was read his Miranda rights for holding on to evidence in a crime. He was given a polygraph test, but first they interviewed him, where he told police the incriminating things about Jesse I just mentioned.
And other stuff that's going on. I saw he started breaking out sweat and things. And I found out that Jason, that he was with Jason McDaniel when they sacrificed the little kid. And I was going to come and tell y'all. And he said, "No, I'll do it."
And then he was given the polygraph test where he was asked, Question 3, did you tell the truth in the statement you gave us today? No, which was a lie, meaning the incriminating things he said about Jesse were true. Question 5, on Thursday, May 6, 1993, did Jessie Misskelley give you a pair of tennis shoes? Lucas responded, no, that was a lie. Number 7, did Jessie Misskelley tell you that Damien and Jason killed those boys? Lucas said, no, that was a lie. Number 9, were you there when those 3 young boys were killed? No. Buddy was telling the truth on that one. Immediately following the polygraph test, Buddy said he did not answer 3, 5, and 7 correctly because he was afraid of what might happen to his family if he testified in the case, which he never did. Now, if Jesse did in fact give Buddy Lucas his pair of Adidas shoes, something a poor teenage boy from West Memphis is unlikely to do, This hints at Jessie trying to get rid of evidence right after the murders. We'll cover more Buddy Lucas in a separate video. Let's keep it going. This takes us to May 7th. Just a day after the bodies were discovered, Damien Echols was definitely on the mind of law enforcement. Lieutenant James Sunbury of the West Memphis Police Department spoke with Steve Jones, a Crittenden County juvenile officer. Both men shared the opinion that the crime had overtones of occult sacrifice. Jones, who knew Echols well through probation officer Jerry Driver, immediately put his name forward as someone capable of such violence. So that very day, Sudbury and Jones went to Echols' residence. They questioned him informally in his bedroom and noted that he had a pentagram tattoo on his chest. They also saw muddy boots and muddy tennis shoes, according to them. However, later, Echols does admit to having some muddy tennis shoes, but he said he would never have muddy boots. He took way too much pride in keeping them clean. But since Damien was not yet a suspect, they didn't have a warrant, so they couldn't take the shoes, so they left him there. Now, in a later report, Damien's friend, Kenneth Ken Watkins, told police he remembered May 7th clearly. He recalled walking with Damien from Lakeshore to Walmart, and Damien's girlfriend at the time, Domini, she confirmed that Kenneth was with Damien, herself, and Jason on May 7th. So, during that walk, when the boys' murders came up, according to Watkins, Damien stated that he was there during the murders with a couple other friends, a few people, and that he knew who did it. And what blows my mind when I read this interview between Ridge and Kenneth Watkins is that Ridge does not freaking ask Ken, who did Damien say did it then? My word. Okay, Watkins went on to add, Damien said in the past that he would want to do something drastic so people would stop picking on him. On the night of May 7th, Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jessie Misskelley all attended the all-night skating event at the West Memphis skating rink, where multiple witnesses placed them together. Jason Baldwin's girlfriend, Heather, recalled greeting Jason while Damien and Jessie were nearby. A kid named Jason Crosby told police that Echols and Baldwin arrived together, with Jessie later showing up alongside Dennis Carter. Crosby noted that Jason seemed really down in the dumps and admitted he just didn't feel good. Crosby left around 10:30 or 11 p.m., but all three, Damien, Jason, and Jessie, they stayed there together. Another teenager, Dino Perfetti, confirmed this event happened, remembering Jason and Damien arriving together and Jessie being there too. Also, there was a 12-year-old Brandy Wilson reported to police that while sitting in the concessions area, she overheard Damien telling people that he had committed the murders of 3 boys. Additional reports from that same night added to suspicion. Heather, Jason's girlfriend, recalled Damien telling her he had been out walking in the neighborhood on the night of May 5th when the boys were killed, and that's what he was doing when her friends were trying to call him. Another girl, Jennifer Bearden, said Damien told her he had been out with Jason that night, the night of the boys' murders. On May 9th, 1993 at 4:15 p.m., Narlene Hollingsworth called the West Memphis Police Department and reported that she saw Damien Echols and his girlfriend, her niece, Domini Tier, walking together near the Blue Beacon truck wash at about 9:40 p.m. on May 5th, the night the boys were killed. And she stated that they both looked dirty. She also stated that on May 8th, her nephew, L.G. Hollingsworth, claimed to know what happened to the boys before anyone else did. Narlene further described Damien as mean and evil. On May 9th, 1993, just 4 days after the murders, detectives Shane Griffin and Bill Durham questioned Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Domini Tier. The interview took place in the front yard of Jason Baldwin's trailer. The 2 police officers asked the 3 teens about their whereabouts on May 5th, the day of the murders. Now, this is when we get version number 1 of Damien's alibi. Now, keep in mind the murders took place on May 5th, roughly between 6:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. On May 9th, 1993, Damien Echols gave his first alibi to officers Bill Durham and Shane Griffin. He claimed that he, Domini Tier, and Jason Baldwin went to Jason's uncle's house so Jason could cut the lawn, though he wasn't sure of the time. Damien said he phoned his father to pick them up from a laundromat around 6 p.m. According to him, his father dropped off Domini at her house, Jason at his, and then Damien at his own home, where Damien stayed the rest of the night. Next, Damien and Jason were given written questionnaires designed by the FBI, a tool meant to screen suspects in violent crimes. It started with general questions, but as the list went on, it went into details about the murders. When asked why someone would commit the killings, Damien didn't hesitate. Thrill kill, he answered. He didn't say robbery or an accident. or that he had no idea. He just flat out described the murders as a thrill kill for someone to kill 3 8-year-olds, which is pretty odd. Then came the question of how the boys died. Damien's response was specific. He said, cut up. At this point, the medical examiner hadn't released the autopsy results yet, and those details were not public. Even more disturbing was Damien's response when asked how the killer might have felt. He put, liked it, happy. Then Damien stated that his sister was molested by his stepfather, and it didn't bother him. Later in the interview, Damien remarked that the victims were probably little boys because younger victims give more power and sacrifice. So this is Damien trying to connect the occult to these murders. Detectives took careful note, as Griffin and Durham later reported. Damien was not treating it like a tragic crime in his community. He was analyzing it, offering motives, methods, and emotions that lined up way too closely with what the investigators were supposed to be looking for according to the FBI's guidance. As the officers worked through the questionnaire, their focus turned towards Jason. But before they could get too far, Mrs. Baldwin came outside, visibly upset, accusing them of picking on her son. She demanded the interview stop, and despite their attempts to continue, the detectives left without completing Jason's questioning. May 10th, 1993. Police followed up on a phone tip from Narlene Hollingsworth and took a taped statement. Narlene said that around 9:30 p.m. or 9:40 on May 5th, she left her trailer with her husband Ricky, son Anthony, and daughter Mary and Tabitha, and maybe 2 other kids, to pick up a friend from work. While driving near the Blue Beacon truck wash, they saw 2 people walking from the direction of Robin Hood Hills. Narlene switched on her brights and said, "That's Dominic and Damien." She described them as being dark, dirty clothing, and insisted she was certain of their identification. Her husband Ricky also saw 2 people walking, but he said he couldn't be sure on exactly who those 2 people were. The teenagers, Tabitha and Anthony, both confirmed seeing Damien and Dominique. However, Tabitha thought it was closer to 9:15 or 9:30, while Anthony believed it was an hour later. But both described them as muddy, dressed in black, and noted the pants had holes, possibly with white flowers. At trial, prosecutors argued that who the Hollingsworth family actually saw was Jason Baldwin and not Dominique, because both were thin, both had long, light-colored hair, similar height, and dressed alike. Now, if this sighting placed Damien and Jason walking away from Robin Hood Hills at that time of the murders, it'd be extremely damning. Also in Narlene's May 10th interview, she seemed compelled to implicate her nephew, L.G. Hollingsworth, age 17. She wanted police to know that LG, which I think stands for Little Gangster, had pressured her to lie about his whereabouts on the day of the murders. He said that I wasn't at no laundromat on Wednesday night. And I said, yes, you was. I said, you better stop lying or they're going to get you for murdering them children. The laundromat connection is worth noting because it comes up more than once, right? We just talked about how Damien himself claimed that his father picked him up from the laundromat around 6 p.m. on the day of the murders. And also there was a laundromat worker named Dixie reported seeing 2 boys and a girl enter the laundromat between 10 and 10:30 p.m. on May 5th. She said that there were individuals that were linked to the Hollingsworth family, but didn't state exactly who she saw. Was it Damien and Dominique meeting up with LG at 10 p.m.? Or since Jason had long hair and could have been mistaken for a girl from a distance, was it Damien and Jason meeting with LG? Was it the West Memphis 3? We don't know. Narlene also told police that her children saw LG with the box after the murders. The kid said that box was about this big, and he said, don't look at it, don't touch it, don't step on it, or I'll hurt you. She remembered them saying the box smelled horrible. The rumor was that there were body parts inside of the box. Also on May 10th, Damien Echols came to the West Memphis Police Department for an interview. Now by this point, he had already been spotted near the crime scene, and he gave some really strange answers the day before on that FBI questionnaire, so investigators wanted to follow up. Echols came in voluntarily to speak with detectives, and one thing that you'll see in this interview is Damien changed some of the key elements of his alibi. He now said it was not his father who called to pick him up. Now he says it was his mother he called who picked him, Jason, and Dominique up from the laundromat, along with Michelle, his sister, and his father, Joe Hutcheson. He also shifted the timing, claiming that they all got picked up before 3 p.m., not 6 p.m. They went to the Sanders residence from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. before Damien and the family returned home. He further added that he spoke on the phone until 11:30 p.m. with Holly George from Tennessee. I wonder who was paying for that long distance call. So between his first alibi on May 9th and this one on May 10th, the person who picked him up changed, the time that they were picked up changed, and also where they went after being picked up changed. So why all those changes? And I'm confused at why he changed the who he called and who drove to pick him up. It might have something to do with the fact that his father moved out on May 4th, the day before the murders, and that he knew police would be able to find that out, so he changed it to his mom. Also, it was reported that Damien was seen crying on May 4th when his dad left, that he was visibly upset by his father moving out. And Damien said in the past that he likes to hurt others when he's angry. Just food for thought. Now, Detective Brian Ridge noted that on this interview on May 10th, that Damien Echols was not considered to be a suspect at this time. Ridge reviewed Damien's answers from the FBI questionnaire from the day before, and he did ask him some of those questions again to confirm consistency and followed up with additional questions. Damien spoke about his involvement with Wicca and described his beliefs, but when the questions shifted to the murders, his responses immediately raised red flags. He described the killings as a thrill kill done for sick and satanic reasons. He volunteered that the boys probably died of mutilation, that they had been cut up, and added with certainty that one of the boys may have been cut more than the others. He also said the victims may have drowned. Now, these were all accurate statements, not public details. These are things that only the people involved with the crime would know. When Ridge asked Damien how the killer would feel, Damien replied that the person probably felt good about what he had done and that he felt power and thought it was funny and didn't care if he was caught. Ridge later wrote down in his notes that Damien either had to be involved or knew who was. Damien went further, tying motive to occult ideas, that the penis symbolizes power, that the number 3 was a sacred number, and that younger victims gave more power from sacrifice, which were all consistent with what was found at Robin Hood Hills. 3 8-year-olds stripped and 1 castrated. After the initial interview, Echols was given a polygraph examination. Here were some of the questions and his responses. At any time Wednesday or Wednesday night, were you in Robin Hood Hills? Echols answered, no. Were you present when those boys were killed? No, Damien replied. Did you kill any of those 3 boys? No. Do you know who killed those 3 boys? No. Do you suspect anyone having killed those 3 boys? No. Damien was lying according to the polygraph. The polygraph report stated, it is the opinion of this polygraph examiner that this subject recorded significant responses indicative of deception when he answered the above listed relevant questions in the manner noted. Conclusion, deception indicated. The post-test interview was even more troubling. When Damien was asked about what he was afraid of, he replied, the electric chair. Damien also stated that the killer probably urinated in one or more of the boys' mouths, which again was not public knowledge. It wasn't even police knowledge at this point, and we'll get to that later on. Over the course of the questioning, Echols stopped denying involvement. Durham wrote in his notes, after a short period of time, he ceased to deny his involvement, and then in parentheses he wrote, admission through absence of denial. He then said, seeming to give in, I will tell you all about it if you will let me talk to my mother. So Detective Ridge brought his mother in to my office to talk to him. After talking to his mother, he again denied being involved in the murders. After approximately 20 minutes, I asked, you're never going to tell anyone about this, but your doctor, are you? He replied, no. Despite all of these self-incriminating statements and Damien knowing details only the killer would know, police still didn't arrest him at this time. They were still investigating. On May 11th, 1993, Damien Echols' former girlfriend, Deanna Hulcom, came to the West Memphis Police Department. She was just 16 years old and had previously run away with Damien, which resulted in both of them being arrested and placed in separate psychiatric facilities. That history, along with what she knew about Damien's beliefs and behavior, made her an important person for investigators to question. So, on May 11th, she completed a formal questionnaire, gave a detailed interview to Lieutenant Sudbury and Detective Ridge, and also agreed to take a polygraph exam. Deanna stated that she had last seen Damien about a month ago at Walmart. That would put their last contact sometime in early April 1993. She explained that she broke things off with him after he told her that if they ever had a child together and it was a girl, he planned to kill it. She described that as the moment she realized he was nuts and wanted nothing more to do with him. Deanna described Damien Echols as crazy, mixed up with drugs and the cult, claiming he had kept skulls and books in his room and always wore black. She said he once told her he had never killed anyone, but wondered what it would feel like. She also mentioned that Damien had suggested hiding in sewers or manholes, which she connected to his special places. Finally, when asked about Dominique, Damien's current girlfriend, Deanna said Dominique would lie for Damien and that he had never been normal. Also on May 11th, 1993, the day after Damien Echols failed his polygraph test and was questioned by police, a disturbing call came into the West Memphis Police Department at roughly 11:23 a.m. The station's operator picked up the phone. On the other end, a young male voice, sounding like a teenager, spoke in a taunting tone. "I'm the one who killed the kids, 3 kids. What y'all gonna do?" Thanks to Rick from Burn After Readings YouTube channel, I have the recorded audio. And in my opinion, the voice does sound similar to Damien Echols.
I don't want to 3 kids. What's all you do? I don't want to 3 kids. What's all you do?
They stand before judgment. What are they going to say when they find out they killed an innocent man? Because oops ain't going to be enough.
I don't want to 3 kids. What's all you do?
So the caller has never been identified, but the tone, the mocking, the cruel, almost playful type of behavior is the same as Damien's later behavior in court when he would smirk at the cameras and even blew kisses at the victims, grieving families, just that same type of thing. But we don't know if it was Damien. May 15th, Jessie contacts the police. So if that was Damien who called the police, making that prank call, then he wasn't the only one who contacted the police with a prank of sorts. On May 15th, 1993, 10 days after the murders, Jessie Misskelley Jr. and 2 of his friends, David Sims, 22, and Dennis Carter, 15, called the West Memphis Police Department to report that they saw 3 kids who were 8 or 9 years old, and they were being chased on the train tracks by a man who just came out of the woods. Then the old man came up to Jessie and his friends, trying to talk to them, and invited him back to his camp to drink some beer. Jessie and his friends stated that they got scared because of the recent murders, referring to Chris, Stevie, and Michael's murders. So they ran to the phone in front of the Howard's Donuts and called the police, then walked to the bowling alley. So it's crazy, right? A few things here. First, the 3 kids didn't exist. Nobody else saw them, and they were never tracked down. However, a man who fit the description was identified as Tracy Laxton. He was the son of the chief detective, Ed Laxton. Police did move fast and investigated Laxton. However, he was quickly ruled out. Records showed that on May 5th, the night of the murders, he had been stranded in eastern Mississippi with car trouble. So it's interesting to now look back on May 15th, knowing that Jessie eventually confesses to the murders of the 3 little boys, and thinking, I wonder if Jessie wasn't trying to point a finger elsewhere here. I think he tried to set someone up. However, that didn't work out because the man he picked had an alibi, which it's apparently hard to pick a random person and blame them for the murders, not knowing if they have an alibi. Something else about this incident. So on that same night, May 15th, David Sims, Jessie's friend who was there with him, makes a report to police later on and states that on May 15th, Jessie told him that he thought Damien and Jason Baldwin killed those 3 little boys. So in hindsight, the May 15th incident foreshadowed everything that was to come. Jessie was already talking about Damien and Jason as being the killers, and this was weeks before his June 3rd confession that we'll get into. And it's an odd detail that it was exactly 3 boys who were being chased that were 8 or 9 years old. Exactly the number and age of the victims. So this incident tied Jessie to the case in a way investigators couldn't ignore. Less than 3 weeks later, he would be back in the police station confessing to his role in the murders. On May 26, William Jones, a teenager from Lakeshore who was close friends with Damien and his girlfriend Dominique, gave a formal statement about a conversation he said took place just a few nights earlier with Damien. Jones recalled being with Damien and Domini in Lakeshore after midnight, probably on May 22nd. He claimed Damien was drunk, real drunk, and in front of others, he began talking openly about the murders. Damien admitted to killing the 3 boys, Jones said. Damien stated that he had sex with them in the butt and that he cut them with a knife. Jones remembered Damien holding his hands apart to show how big the blade was, and it was about 8 to 10 inches long. He described Damien as being excited while talking about the murders, not remorseful. Jones stated that when he spoke with Damien the next day and brought up the murders, Damien denied it all. Damien said he was just drunk, but the details Jones gave about the sexual assault and the knife, it fit with the injuries that had not been fully released to the public yet. And apparently William Jones' mother also made a report to the police about her son telling her about how Damien committed the murders. In the police notes, it says a statement of William Jones that Damien told him that he killed those boys and the police could not catch him and that the police will end up like those boys. He later told him he didn't kill them. Now, the state planned to use William Jones as against Damien at trial. However, strangely, William Jones never testified during trial. He was one of several witnesses that changed their mind about testifying after being contacted by Ron Lax, the defensive team's private investigator. Lax had a pattern of meeting or speaking with witnesses, after which many abruptly recanted or softened their stories. And also, there was a softball game that occurred in May of 1993, not long after the murders. At this girls' softball game, 2 girls testified that Damien Echols was heard saying he killed the 3 boys and planned to kill more. Jody Medford recounted, quote, "I heard Damien Echols say that he killed the 3 little boys, and before he turned himself in, that he was going to kill 2 more, and I already had one of them picked out." From Jody Medford. During Damien's murder trial, he denied saying those things at a softball game. However, years later, after he was released from prison, Damien acknowledged that he might have said those things at a softball game, but if he did, it was just a careless joke. May 27th, Vicki Hutcheson. May 27th, Vicki Hutcheson. Vicki Hutcheson, or Victoria Hutcheson, is the lady who connected Damien and Jason to Jessie for the police.
At some point, did Damien invite you to some meeting?
He did. A cult satanic meeting.
Okay.
One of the key developments that eventually led police to Jessie Misskelley came from his neighbor and friend, Vicki Hutcheson. On May 27, 1993, Hutcheson contacted West Memphis police and told them she could help them get information about Damien Echols. She had heard that Damien might be involved in the murders, and knowing that Jessie, her friend, was friends with him, she offered to insert herself into Damien's world by pretending to be interested in him and in the occult. According to her account, she told Jessie that she thought Damien was hot and asked if he could arrange an introduction. Soon after, Vicki and Damien did meet. Take this story with a grain of salt. Hutcheson also later claimed she orchestrated a strange outing where she, her son Aaron, and Damien drove around talking about Wicca and rituals. She testified to a somewhat cleaned up version of her SBAT story and has since recanted her stories. Hutcheson admitted much of it was fabricated or exaggerated. Regardless of its reliability, she helped police connect the dots between Jessie, Damien, and Jason. June 2nd, Aaron Hutcheson names Jessie Misskelley. By the first week of June, Jessie Misskelley's name was coming up more and more often. On June 2nd, the 8-year-old boy named Aaron Hutcheson, who was apparently friends with the 3 boys that were murdered, and also the son of Vicki Hutcheson, who we just talked about, told investigators that someone named Little Jessie, he's referring to Jessie Misskelley Jr., had been in Robin Hood Hills and even claimed Jessie spoke of seeing Michael Moore. Now, Aaron's story would shift from day to day. He spoke to police numerous times, but one detail that stayed steady was he kept bringing up Little Jessie. Now, we're not sure what Jessie told Aaron, if anything at all, but something interesting is Jessie would often babysit Aaron for Vicki. So he was apparently around little Aaron a lot. June 3rd, 1993. Police interest in Jessie Misskelley Jr. spiked after 3 events. On May 15th, he made a bizarre false report about 3 boys being chased. On May 26th, his neighbor Vicki Hutcheson tied him socially to Damien and Jason, and Damien was already on the radar for some of the incriminating statements he made. And on June 2nd, Vicki's son Aaron claimed Jessie had been in Robin Hood Hills the day of the murders. These 3 incidents set the stage for investigators to bring Jessie in for an interview. They wanted to learn more about him and his relationship with Damien and Jason. So here's how June 3rd played out. At 9:45 a.m., Detective Mike Allen first spoke with Jessie Misskelley Sr. to get his permission to bring his son Jessie Jr. in for questioning. Not long after, Jessie Jr. was picked up at Vicki Hutcheson's trailer and transported to the police station. By 10 a.m., Jessie was inside of the station. Officers documented his physical appearance, noting his tattoos. He did have a tattoo of NWA, okay? They asked him again to go over his whereabouts on May 5th, the night of the murders. Jessie repeated his alibi. He said he had been working a roofing job with Ricky Dees and Josh Darby that finished around 5 p.m. and then they went straight home. This will later be determined it was a lie, as Ricky Dees stated that he let Jessie off of work at 12:30 p.m. that day. Then he stated that he went back to Jessie's house to see if he wanted to work longer, but Jessie wasn't there. This was at about 1 p.m. or 1:30. Jessie was already gone. At 11 a.m., Detective Allen formally read Jessie Misskelley his rights, with his father's consent. Jessie agreed to take a polygraph at 11:30 a.m. Examiner Bill Durham reread the rights, strapped him to a machine, and ran 3 full charts. Durham stopped the test early with his blunt conclusion that Jessie was lying his ass off. Officially, the results were marked inconclusive, but Durham was certain Jessie wasn't telling the truth about Robin Hood Hills. The problem was they asked him a question about drug use, and that got him all worked up. Then that question was followed by questions about the murders, and he was already too worked up where they couldn't tell a difference. So it was a bonehead question to ask, in my opinion. But the most significant failures of the polygraph was when Jessie was asked about whether he's ever been to Robin Hood Hills, whether he'd taken part in the devil worshipping that went on there, allegedly, and whether he knew who killed the 3 boys. He was nervous off the charts during all of those questions. By 12:40 p.m., Jessie was back in a small interview room. He had failed the polygraph and been questioned about his alibi again. Detectives noted he was very vague about timelines, admitting he didn't have a watch on and wasn't sure about the times. But Detective Brian Ridge observed something striking. When Jessie described going back to the woods after the murders and crying about the boys, he teared up. Ridge saw it as a potential remorseful response that suggested Jessie knew far more than he was letting off. So then Chief Inspector Gary Gitchell then tried a different tactic. He drew a simple circle on a blank sheet of paper. Inside the circle he wrote, "Those responsible," and outside of the circle he wrote, "Law enforcement." Sliding it to Jessie, he asked, "Are you inside this circle or outside it?" Jessie pointed to the outside, still claiming he wasn't directly involved, but detectives sensed his defenses starting to crack. Gitchell then placed an autopsy photograph in Jessie's hands. Side note, Gitchell got lucky with this one. The image was of Michael Moore, the very boy Jessie had chased down and beaten during the attack. This was the victim he was most familiar with. When handed the photo, Jessie froze. He stared at the photo for several long seconds, visibly shaken. He quickly pushed it away, insisting he didn't want to be part of this, and that Damien and Jason had killed the boys, not him. Finally, Gitchell played a short audio clip, the voice of 8-year-old Aaron Hutcheson, the son of Jessie's friend, Vicki Hutcheson. And it's unclear if Jessie recognized that this was Aaron, but anyways, an 8-year-old's voice saying this, "Nobody knows what happened but me." Hearing it broke Jessie down. He began to cry and said he was ready to tell the truth. By 2:20 p.m., Ridge and Gitchell were preparing to record his statement. At 2:44 p.m., the tape recorder clicked on. Over the next 34 minutes, Jessie laid out a story that would become the cornerstone of the case against the West Memphis 3. A few things to keep in mind before listening to this first confession. These things to keep in mind are just my opinion. Number 1, Jessie does seem to be led by investigators at times. In the session that wasn't recorded, Jessie admitted to lots of things, so they seemed like they were trying to jog his memory as they didn't record at the beginning. 2, Jessie often seemed to tell police what they wanted to hear, often filling in gaps. And I think why he had to do this is because of number 3. He wasn't watching every detail of what was happening to the other boys. He admits he was busy chasing and beating one of them, So he didn't see everything. He was preoccupied with his own brutality. 4. You'll also notice in this confession, Jessie tries to distance himself. So he lies about obvious things, starting with the time of the murders. Also, it's obvious that he wants to get Damien and Jason in trouble for their involvement, as he will later state that he feels like he was tricked or manipulated by them to participate in the murders. And finally, he had been drinking whiskey and in some accounts even smoking marijuana, so his memory wasn't crystal clear. But there's certain things that he will keep consistent through all of his interviews, through all of his confessions. Let's give it a listen.
Okay, Jessie, let's go straight to that date, 5/5 of 93, a Wednesday, early in the morning. You received a phone call, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And who made that phone call?
Jason Baldwin.
All right, what occurred? What did he talk about?
He called me and asked me could I go to West Memphis with him, and I told him no, I had to work and stuff, and then he told me he had to go to West Memphis, so him and Damien went, then I went with them.
All right, when?
Wednesday.
All right, when did you go with them?
That morning.
At 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I went with them, and then
Now, were you in a car? Whose car were you on?
we walked.
Y'all walked? Okay.
Right, we walked, and then
Where did you go?
we went to Robin Hood.
You went to the Robin Hood. Explain to me where those woods are.
About Blue Beacon Truck Wash.
Just a little patch of woods.
Little patch of woods.
Behind Blue Beacon?
Behind it. Right back there behind it.
Okay. What occurred while you were there?
When I was there, I saw Damien hit this one boy real bad, and then now he started screwing him and stuff, and then
all right, you've got in front of you a picture that was taken out of the newspaper, I believe. It's got 3 boys, and these are the 3 boys that were killed on that date in Robin Hood Woods. Okay. Which one of those 3 boys is it you say Damien hit? The third picture, which will be...
This boy right here?
Yeah.
All right, that's the Byers boy.
Christopher.
That's who you're pointing at?
Mm-hmm.
If you'll read the caption, the grisly slaying from left, 8-year-old Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Christopher Byers. Okay. So you saw Damien strike Chris Byers in the head.
Right.
What did he hit him with?
He hit him with his fist and bruised him all up real bad. And then Jason turned around and hit Stevie Branch.
Okay.
And started doing the same thing. Then the other one took off. Michael Moore took off running. So I chased him and grabbed him and held him till they got there, and then I left.
Okay. All right. When you get the boys back together, where are you at from the creek?
I was up by the service road.
Up by the service road? Okay. Now, when he hits the first boy, where are they at when he hits him? Are you in the woods? You on the side of the big bayou? You out in the field? Where you at?
I was in the woods.
In the woods. Okay, you've been down there in those woods before.
So
Can you describe to me what in those woods, what's the location where you were? Is there a path you go down?
I was down a little path.
All right, where does that path go to?
It lead out there close to the field, close to the interstate.
Okay.
Stuff where I was at.
All right.
I was close by the interstate.
When he hits the first boy, and then Jason hits another boy, and one takes off running, where does he run to?
That one, he runs out, going out the park, and I chased him and grabbed him and brought him back.
Which way does he go? I mean, does he going back towards where the houses are? Is he going to Blue Beacon? Is he going out towards the field? Where's he running to?
Towards the houses.
Towards the houses.
Where the pipe is that goes across the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
He ran out there, and I called him and brought him back. And then I took off.
Okay. Well, you came back a little bit later. and all 3 boys are tied. Is that right?
And then I took off and went home.
All right. Have they got their clothes on when you saw them tied?
They had them off.
They had already gotten them off. When he first hit the boy, when Damien first hit the first boy, did they have their clothes on then? All right. When did they take their clothes off?
Right after they beat up all 3 of them and beat them up real bad.
Beat them up real bad. And then they took their clothes off.
And
then they tied them.
Then they tied them up, tied their hands up. They start screwing them and stuff, cutting them and stuff. And I saw it and I turned around and looked. And then I took off running. I went home. And then they called me and asked me how come I didn't stay. I told them I just couldn't.
Just couldn't stay for that.
I couldn't stand to see what they was doing to them.
Okay. Now, when it's going on, when it's taking place, you saw somebody with a knife. Who had a knife?
Jason.
Jason had a knife. What did he cut with the knife? What did you see him cut, or who did you see him cut?
I saw him cut one of the little boys.
All right. Where did he cut him at?
He was cutting him in the face.
Cutting him in the face. All right. Another boy was cut, I understand. Where was he cut at?
At the bottom.
On his bottom? Was he face down and he was cutting on him, or?
Now, you talking about bottom, do you mean right here? In his groin area? Okay. So
you know what his penis is?
Yeah. That's where he was cut at.
That's where he was cut.
Which boy was that?
That right there.
You're talking about the Byers boy again? Okay.
Are you sure that he was the one that was cut?
That's when I seen him cutting on.
All right, you know what a penis is?
Yes.
All right, is that where he was cutting?
That's where I seen him going down that. And he was on his back. I seen him going down like that real close to his penis and stuff. And I saw some blood and that's when I took off.
Were y'all close to the creek at that point?
Yes.
Where was the little boy actually at?
He was close about.
All right, you know where the bayou is.
Right.
All right, and you know where the little creek is that goes out to the expressway. And doesn't have a lot of water in it, but it's got some water in it and it's flowing through there. Which side of that creek were you on? Were you on the Memphis side of the creek, or were you on the Blue Beacon side of that creek?
Blue Beacon.
On the Blue Beacon. So there's like a tall bank. Where were you at on that bank?
I was standing up on top.
All right, where were they at?
They was at the bottom.
On which side?
The Memphis side.
They were on the Memphis side.
I was on the...
All right, we're going to correct that even further. That's the east side. Memphis side is the east side. And you were standing at the top of the bank on the west side. Were you looking down at what was going on?
I was looking down. And after I seen all that, I took off.
Okay. And when you left, did you hear any more hollering or anything?
No.
All right. You went home. And about what time was it that all this was taking place?
They called me about...
I'm not saying when they called you. I'm saying what time was it that you were actually there in the park?
I was there about 12.
About noon? Okay. Was it after school? Had let out?
I didn't go to school.
What, these other boys?
No, they skipped school.
They skipped school?
They was going to catch their bus or stuff, and they was on their bikes. So.
All right. They were on their bikes. Where were their bikes at?
They laid their bikes down when they came out there to the... When they hollered for them, told them to come out there.
Where did they lay their bikes down? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know where they laid their bikes at down there. Because I was behind Damien and them. Way behind them.
Okay.
And when they hollered, then I seen the boys.
Little boys came on over. Had Damien seen these boys before?
Yes.
Has he done things with them before? Or has he just been watching them? Has he had sex with them before? Has he ever had sex with any of them before?
No, he's been watching them.
He's been watching them. You mentioned earlier that at one of the meetings you went to with this cult thing, they had some pictures. Describe those pictures for me.
It had has my houses, the trees and stuff.
Okay. Had somebody taken pictures of these boys?
Mm-hmm.
Were they in the houses or were they in these trees when they took those pictures?
They were at the houses.
At the houses. Did they take like one picture of one boy?
It was in a group.
Always three?
It was a group of pictures of three. All three of them.
All three of them would generally be together.
Mm-hmm.
How many pictures did you see altogether?
I just saw one.
Okay. And it had these same three boys in it?
Mm-hmm.
You're certain of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, did you say the boys skipped school that day? These little boys did?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
They was going to catch going somewhere, and like I said, Damien and them left before I did. I told them I'd meet them there and stuff. I had to get ready and stuff. I'd meet them there. And it was early in the morning, so they went ahead and met me. They went ahead and went up there, and then I came up, later on behind them.
What time did you get there?
I got there about 9.
In the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Of Wednesday morning?
Mm-hmm.
And
what time is it right now?
Right now?
Yeah. You don't know what time it is?
Do you not wear a watch?
It's at home. My dad woke me up this morning.
Your time period might not be exactly right what you're saying.
Right.
But it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time. Okay. Because I've got some real confusion with the times you're telling me. But now, this 9 o'clock in the evening call that you've got, explain that to me.
Well, after all the stuff happened that night that they done it,
okay,
I went home about noon. Then they called me at 9 o'clock that night. They called me.
Okay. And what did they tell you on the telephone?
They asked me how come I left so early and stuff. And I told them I couldn't stand there watching it no more, so I had to do something to get out of there.
Okay. Who called you?
Jason.
And you mentioned you heard some voice in the background?
I heard some Damien.
And what else? I think you said that he made the call from his house?
He made a call from his house, and Damien was hollering in the background and said, we done it, we done it. What we gonna do if somebody saw us? What we gonna do?
Okay. Now, the knives. Was there one knife, two knives? Was your knife there?
Mm-hmm.
Did somebody take you and use your knife? Do you have a knife?
I got one knife.
Where is it at?
It's at home.
Okay. The knife that you said Jason was using?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
I don't know what he done with it, because after I left, then that's when I don't know what they done with it. After I left, I don't know what they done with it.
He didn't tell you he hid it somewhere?
That's what I got a feeling here. You're not quite telling me everything. Now, we are recording everything. So this is very, very important to tell us the entire truth. If you were there the whole time, then tell us you were there the whole time. Don't leave anything out. This is very, very important. Now just tell us the truth.
I was there until they tied him up. And then that's when I left. After they tied him up, I left.
But you saw them cutting on the boys.
I saw them cutting on them. And then
so what else left is there after that?
They laid the knives down beside them, and I saw them tying them up, and then that's when I left.
Were the boys conscious, or were they?
They was unconscious then.
Unconscious. Okay.
And then after I left, they done more.
They done more.
They started screwing them again.
Okay. How were they screwing them when you saw them?
Jason stuck his in one of them's mouth, and Damien was screwing one of them up the ass and stuff.
Okay. All right, and the one that they were cutting the penis off of, did any of them, or cutting the penis or whatever was being done, did they have sex with him at all?
No.
Did either one of them?
Jason did.
Jason did.
Jason was screwing him while Damien stuck his in his mouth and letting the boy's mouth.
Okay. How did he have sex with that one?
Damien, he was holding him down, like,
Uh-huh.
and Jason had his legs up in the air and that little boy was kicking. saying don't, like that.
Okay. He had his legs up in the air. All right. What was to keep these little boys from running off? If just their hands are tied, what's to keep them from running off?
Well, they beat them up so bad, well, they can't hardly move. They have their hands tied down.
All right,
And just sit on them.
You said they had their hands tied down. Were their hands tied in a fashion to where they couldn't have run? You tell me.
They could run. They just had them tied. When they knock them down and stuff, they can hold their arms and stuff, and then hold them down like where he couldn't raise up. And the other one pick his legs up.
Okay. So they had them under control. You were there the whole time that was taking place?
I was there.
Okay. One of them was cut on the face real bad. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was being cut on his penis.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Did anyone use a stick and hit the boys with?
Damien had kind of a big old stick when he hit that first one. After he hit him with his fist, knocked him down, then he got him a big old stick and hit him.
What did the stick look like? I mean, was it like a big log like that, or is it a stick?
I'd say it was about that big around. I'd say about that long.
Okay.
About the size of a baseball bat, maybe just a little bit bigger around.
Yeah.
That's what you described with your hands, right?
Right.
Okay. How long was the knife that Jason was using? All right, you're describing a knife that would be about 6 inches long. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of blade did it have on it?
Like just a regular knife blade.
Was it a knife that you fold up, or was it like a hunting knife that's just one piece?
Just you fold up knife.
It was a folding knife?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does Damien have a knife?
No.
He doesn't have one? He didn't have one that night?
He didn't have one that night.
Did he borrow yours?
No, he didn't borrow mine.
Okay.
Did they have a briefcase with them? You didn't see a briefcase?
I didn't see a briefcase. Not unless they left it there that day before it happened. Not unless they left it there then, but I didn't see it down there that day.
Have you ever seen them with a briefcase before?
I seen that one night. I seen it with them that night.
Okay. What is kept inside that briefcase?
They had some cocaine and a little gun.
Is that where you first saw the pictures
Mm-hmm.
of the boys?
I didn't make sure.
And you saw the pictures in the briefcase?
Mm-hmm. I put it when we had that cult.
Okay. Now you have participated in this cult, right?
Yes.
How long have you been involved in it?
I've been in it for about 3 months.
Okay. Tell me some of the things y'all do typically in the woods as being in this cult.
We go out, kill dogs and stuff, and then carry girls out there.
All right, what do you do with the girls when you're out there?
We screw them and stuff.
Does just everybody take turns?
Everybody, and all have orgies and stuff like that.
Okay.
When you kill a dog, what do you do with it?
We usually skin it, build a little bonfire, and eat it and stuff.
Okay, when you're initiating somebody new to come into a cult, what actually is done to initiate that person into the cult?
We usually, kill the animals, see if he knows, how to handle the meat and stuff. After we kill it, see if he knows. If he can't handle it, then he don't get in.
Okay, so he kills an animal. You mentioned earlier that he may have to eat part of that animal. What part of the animal would he eat?
Part of his, meat off his leg.
Meat off his leg.
And if he can't eat it, then he don't get in.
Doesn't get into the club. Okay. Now, on these these meetings, have they ever been violent? Anybody got mad and got in a fight?
No.
Okay. The night you were in these woods, had y'all been in the water?
Yeah, we've been in the water. We was in the, playing around in it.
You were playing around in the water. All right. What were you doing in the water? Besides just playing, I mean, the little boys, had they been in the water? Did they get in the water with y'all?
No, they didn't get in the water with us.
Okay. What were you doing in the water?
We were just sitting there throwing stuff at each other.
Okay. Were y'all having sex?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't?
No.
Was Damien and Jason having sex?
They take turns going up under the water.
Going under the water? What were they doing under the water?
I don't know. They sit so far away. They go up in the water, stay for about, I'll say about 5-10 seconds, and then come up, and the other one go down.
Okay. So they were just messing around in the water. All right. They called for these boys to come over there?
Yeah, they seen the boys, and then they hollered. Damien hollered, say, hey, and the boys came out there.
Did they call them by name?
They just hollered, and then they just showed up.
Where did the boys put their bikes?
Close right there before you come in. They laid it down right there.
Okay.
And I don't know what, after I left, I don't know what they did with the body.
You didn't do anything to the bikes at all?
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
You didn't touch the bikes?
Didn't touch them.
All right. You've been back to this place since that murder, since it took place. What did you do while you were there? And be truthful.
I'll sit down there. I just sit there after what they did to the boys. I just sit there.
And did what?
Just thought what happened to them real bad. I just thought.
Okay.
And then I left and stuff.
And stuff?
I just left and walked on.
When did you go back there?
2 or 3 days after it happened. And I left.
Were you there by yourself?
I was there by myself.
Did you go there with some more boys once?
Just me, David, and Dennis.
To that particular place?
No, not to that.
Okay. Are you willing to go down there with us and us have a camcorder and you show us where these things took place? Could you do that? Wouldn't have any problem with that.
Not that I know of, I wouldn't.
Huh?
Not that I know of, I wouldn't have a problem.
But you would be able to point out where these things took place, which way the boys came from, and where y'all were when he hollered for the boys and stuff like that. You wouldn't have any problem with that?
But after the murder and stuff, like I said, about 2 or 3 days later after it happened, I went in there and thought about it, and I ain't been there since.
Okay. Let me ask you something. This is real serious, and I want you to be real truthful. And I want you to think about it before you answer it. Don't just say yes or no real quick. I want you to think about it. Did you actually hit any of these boys?
No.
Now tell us the truth.
No.
Okay. Did you actually rape any of these boys?
No.
Did you actually kill any of these boys?
No.
Did you see any of the boys actually killed?
Yes.
Okay. Which one did you see killed?
That right there.
You're pointing to the Byers boy again? Okay.
And how was he actually killed?
He choked him real bad, like.
Choking him. Okay. What was he choking him with?
It was like a stick. It was a little stick, and he kind of holding it over his neck.
Okay. So he was choking him to the point to where he actually went unconscious? So at that point, you feel like he was dead?
Yeah.
Okay. Did any of the other two boys, were you there when they were actually killed? You say you got sick of what you were seeing. Did you throw up or anything? Where did you throw up at?
I got a little bit of ways after we took scene that I left about half a mile up the road. That's when I threw up and stuff. I couldn't hardly run or nothing. I just threw up.
When you left from there, did you leave running? Were you hiding?
I didn't hide.
You had some blood on your clothes?
I had no blood on me. I didn't get close to them.
Were your clothes wet still?
They was damp.
Muddy?
All right, Inspector Gitchell touched on a point real close. Now, what clothes was Jason wearing that day, that night?
He wore some blue jeans and some boots, like the army boots, like.
Army boots? And what kind of a shirt? I mean, you know, everybody wears a special shirt for different things.
He was wearing a Megadeth shirt.
A Megadeth?
Not Megadeth, Metallica.
Metallica shirt. All right, was he wearing a cap? Anything like that?
No, he didn't wear a cap.
All right, Damien. What was Damien wearing?
Damien had some black pants on, some boots, and a black t-shirt.
All right, was anything on his shirt? No kind of design or anything?
Just black.
These blue jeans that Jason was wearing, they designer jeans? Were they old jeans, wore out, holes?
They was wore out.
What did they look like?
They had holes in the knees and stuff.
Holes in the knees. What color is Jason's hair?
Blonde.
Bright blonde or like a sandy reddish type blonde? You know the difference?
It's like a sandy color blonde.
Sandy color blonde? Okay. He's wearing blue jeans. He had a Metallica shirt. This is a shirt that's got Metallica across the front of it spelled out and a man's name or something under it, or a picture. Is that right? You tell me.
They had pictures.
Picture of somebody?
Different shirts have, different Metallica shirts got different pictures.
Which one did he have?
He had the sky skull on it and stuff like that.
A skull? Yeah. Okay. What were you wearing that day?
I was just wearing regular blue jeans, my shoes, and
what kind of shoes were you wearing?
My Adidas.
Adidas tennis shoes? Okay. What kind of shirt were you wearing?
I was just wearing a regular, one of my old Breezy Up t-shirts.
Okay. Was it a design shirt, like this Bull Run type shirt, or was it just a plain white, old t-shirt? Where are these shoes at now?
A friend of mine got them, he borrowed them.
All right, who is that?
Buddy Lucas.
Buddy Lucas?
He borrowed them from me.
The boots that Damien had on, are they army type boots too, or what kind of boots were they?
It's close to like army type, not quite.
Okay. They're black, is that right? Lace up? Okay. And Jason's black, lace up?
Jason was black up to about 3/4 wide.
Oh, they come way up on him. Okay. Damien's didn't come up that far? Okay. Okay. When they killed the boys, you decided to go. You went home. How long after you got home before you received a phone call? 30 minutes? An hour? An hour after you got home? Okay. So they were there for a lot longer. When he called you on the phone, did he say you just got in?
Oh, he called me when he first called me. He said, "How come I left?" I told him I couldn't stand it. I had to do something else.
Okay.
And then
you couldn't stand it.
And then I heard Damien in the background saying, "We done it. What we gonna do now? What about if somebody saw us?"
Okay. Did anybody see you leaving?
No.
That you know of?
That I know of.
Did anybody see Damien and Jason?
Oh no, I left before them.
But have you heard anybody say that they saw Damien and Jason? You hadn't heard anybody? Okay. Now these initiations, you said they eat part of the leg muscles, leg meat?
Yeah.
Would that involve eating part of the penis of the animal? Just the meat?
Just the meat.
Okay. Has Jason and Damien talked to you since this happened? They haven't talked to you about this?
They ain't say nothing around me. Well, not because I'm around some more of my friends, they don't say nothing.
Well, when you've been by yourself, and I'm sure in the last 3 weeks you've been by yourself with them sometime.
I mean, with Damien, he just, he keeps on asking me how come I left and stuff. And has anybody said anything to me about it?
Okay. What did he say about when you came to the police department? That boy, you seeing that boy in the woods up there behind the Goodyear place. What did he say about that?
He didn't know nothing about that.
He doesn't know that? Okay. What about when you get with Jason by himself?
He keeps on asking me what we're going to do next. I told him I can't do nothing now because I go work with my dad every day. I make up an excuse because...
So they're scared. Is that right?
They're scared because after what they did, I told them I just bring up every excuse. I got to work with my dad every time or something. I got to do something.
Well, what do you think ought to be done to them for killing these boys?
I think they need to be put away for a while.
Put away for a while. Do you think they're sick or just mean?
I think they're sick.
They're sick. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add to this statement?
No.
Why did you not come forward with this information?
Because I was scared.
Scared of Damien or scared of the police?
Scared of the police.
Are you scared of Damien now?
No.
Are you scared of the police now?
No.
You're not? So we've treated you well. Okay. All right. I'm going to conclude this interview. The time is 3:18.
The confession session ended at 3:18 p.m., but Gitchell wanted some clarification, and he felt there were some inconsistencies in what Jessie stated before he was recorded versus when he was being recorded, particularly around timing, sequence, involvement, and even details like shoe ownership. At 3:45 p.m., Jessie Misskelley gave his clarification statement to police, where he corrected and expanded on key details. This was also recorded.
Let me sit there right here.
Jessie,
when you got with the boys and with Jason and Baldwin, when you three were in the woods and then the little boys come up, about what time was it when the boys came up to the woods?
I say it was about 5 or so, 5 or 6.
Now, did you have your watch on at the time?
Mm-mm.
You didn't have your watch on? Like you told me earlier, it's around 7 or 8, or which time is it?
It's 7 or 8.
Are you?
Yeah, it was starting to get dark.
Okay.
I remember it was starting to get dark.
Okay, well that clears it up. I didn't know. That's what I was wondering. Was it getting dark or what?
We got out there at 6, but the boys come up when it was starting to get dark.
Okay. So you and Jason and Baldwin, Damien, y'all got there right at 6?
About 6.
Is that a normal time y'all meet at 6?
Yeah.
Okay. When you do your cult stuff, is 6 does 6 mean something? I mean, is that a time you normally do meet?
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all met out there at 6, and then the boys come up about what time?
About 7.
About 7 o'clock. Okay. So y'all were out there with the boys and all this stuff going on, and until you noticed it started getting dark. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you're sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. 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 Hold on just a minute. Okay, Jessie, I'd asked you about your clothing, and you said that, what were you wearing?
I was wearing blue jeans and a white shirt and some kind of basketball deal on it. Some tennis shoes.
All right, your shirt, was it what kind of shirt was it?
It was a white shirt with a basketball on around it.
Is it a shirt like you got on now?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of shirt is it like you got on now? That's a what, a t-shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you had a white t-shirt with a basketball design on it? Okay, what about shoes? What kind of shoes did you have on?
White, blue, Adidas.
White and blue?
Mm-hmm.
And who has those shoes now?
Buddy Lucas.
And how old's Buddy?
About 18 or 19.
Why does he have your shoes?
We was coming home one day, it was raining, and he didn't have nothing else to wear, so he put on one of my shoes.
Okay. And where does he live at?
In Lake Shore.
Is there?
By a church.
Is there a street or anything?
There's a street belt. They ain't got no names on it, no.
What street is the church on?
On Street off of Cherry Street. No, it's Cherry Street, right in front of it.
Off of Cherry Street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any vehicles around close by that I could recognize that trailer?
It should be a green truck and a brown van. And there's a basketball goal right there with that green truck's at. There's a basketball goal.
Right. Who tied the boys up?
Damien.
Did Damien just tie them all up, or did anyone help Damien? Or?
Jason helped him.
Okay. And what did they use to tie them up?
A rope.
Okay. What color was the rope?
Brown.
Did you ever see the boys in the water?
Yeah. Some by water.
All right. How did the boys get in the water?
They pulled them in to the water.
All right. When you say they, who is it that pulled them to the water?
Jason and Damien.
And do you wear a belt?
Nope.
Does Jason wear a belt?
Mm-mm.
Does Damien wear a belt?
Yep.
What kind of belt does he wear?
A black leather belt with a beads, like little beads around it.
With beads around it?
Like little beads, stubbies real.
Okay. About how thick is the belt?
About 4 inches.
Now, do you know what 4 4 inches looks like?
About like that. The belt was about like that.
Okay, I don't think that's quite 4 inches, but probably about 3, something like that. Which boys were raped?
The Myers and the Branch.
Okay, so you know them by name and face well enough to call them by name? Okay. Did you see the Moore boy? Was he raped?
No.
Right. Who raped those 2 boys?
Jason and Damien.
Do you know which one raped which boy, or how did that happen?
Damien raped the Myers by himself, and Jason and Damien raped the Branch.
All right, give that to me again there.
Damien raped the Myers by himself, and Jason and Damien raped the Branch.
Did anyone have oral sex with the boys?
Yes, Damien and Jason.
How many of them did they do that to?
Just 2. Branch and Myers.
How did they keep the boys quiet?
Put their hands over their mouth.
Did they do anything else other than put their hands over their mouth? How did they finally keep them from being quiet? Because the boys bound to have been hollering.
They stuck their hand over their mouth first, and then they stuck a shirt to their mouth.
Okay, did they do anything else to them to make them be quiet?
They stuck a thing in their mouth.
Okay. Were they hitting them before that or afterwards?
Before and after. Just trying to keep them off of them.
Just all the time?
Trying to keep Jason and Damien off of them.
Now they put whose shirts did they put in their mouth? Jason and Damien do each other, have sex with each other. Did they have any oral sex on the boys?
Yes, one of them stuck their thing in one of the boys' mouth, while the other one got the other one up the butt and stuff.
Okay, but did anyone go down on the boys and maybe suck theirs or something?
No, I didn't see neither one of them do that.
You didn't see that? Did they pinch their penis in any way? Or were rough with it or anything like that?
I haven't seen nothing like that. Not rough with it. I haven't seen them.
But you didn't see anyone go down on the boys? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. That Coke was kind of cold, huh? I tell you, it tasted pretty good to me, though. Jessie, now the boys' hands are tied up, right?
Right.
How did they force these boys to have oral sex on them? How did they have a hold of them?
One of them had him held by the arms, while the other one got behind him and stuff.
Did he ever hold him up here, or?
The one that was holding him up at the front, grabbed him by his headlock.
Had him in a headlock? Did he have him any other way?
He was holding him like this, by his head like this, and stuff.
Could he have been holding him up here, like that?
I was too far away. He was home right there by his head, right there.
So,
And he was pulling them.
okay. So who, was one of them doing that or both of them doing it? Was Jason?
Jason, I hold him like Damien did it, and then they took turns.
So they both did it to all three of the boys?
Just them two.
Just the two of them?
Yeah.
But they both, Jason and Damien, did it to two of the boys, and they took turns. And they would hold, tell me again about the hands on, I mean, I know you're holding it up here.
By their heads and stuff and just pull.
All right, so they're up there, had their hands
by their ears and pull.
All right, okay. Say that again for me now.
I hold them by the head, by the ears and pull them.
Okay.